Committee will come to order. Senator Ingebrigtsen.
Madam Chair, I do have the A12 amendment.
Senator Ingebrigtsen moves the A12 amendment. Mr. Stanley, would you like to go through the A12 amendment, please?
Madam Chair, members, the A12 deals with Section 17. Is there feedback? Are you hearing me? Okay. Deals with Section 17. This is the section that provides DNR and the Board of Animal Health with concurrent authority over white-tailed deer farm cervids. This adds one sentence, you can see on lines 4 through 6, that just clarifies that this language does not add any additional authority beyond what's enumerated in the language that's already in the bill. So it's just sort of clarification language about what the existing language already does. Then the rest of the amendment from line 8 on down adds a new requirement for the DNR and the Board of Animal Health to submit a report to the chairs of the relevant committees in February of 2022 on the implementation of this section and on outstanding challenges to managing chronic wasting disease.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. And this A12 has been posted, and people should have it. Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner, for working on this amendment, to you and Assistant Commissioner Meyer. Appreciate your diligence on this, and to all of you members, too, to get this, the time that we've taken to get this amendment right. This is a big priority for the governor, too. And so if you could make comments on the A12 and on the total bill, I would appreciate it.
Sure, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to do that. And for the record, I'm Sarah Stroman. I'm the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. And I will just say I really appreciate the work by everyone on this amendment as well, and the work in the underlying bill specific to this issue of chronic wasting disease. This is an issue that has been of growing concern in the state of Minnesota and of growing threat to our wild deer herd and our deer hunting traditions in the state. And I think, part of the challenge here with this language is that the situation and the assessment of risk really changed just recently with the discovery of a CWD positive facility in Beltrami County and the discovery that there had been remains deposited on adjacent county managed land. And so as this situation has evolved, we really appreciate Senator Ingebrigtsen and his committee and you, Madam Chair, and the members here for making sure that we have the right tools to address this evolving issue in our state and make sure that we are protecting Minnesota's wild deer, which is so cherished in our outdoor traditions. So we think this is a good amendment. We think this is a good provision to ensure that the Board of Animal Health and the Department of Natural Resources can work better together, better applying our respective expertises and skills and to this issue so that we can do a better job in preventing and not just responding.
Thank you, Commissioner. You know what, Commissioner, I think we'll go ahead and take a vote, and then we'll let you continue on the rest of the bill. Are there any questions for the A12 amendment? Senator Marty.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, what does this restriction on 1.4 does not confer any additional authorities? What authorities could be otherwise understood without this language?
Commissioner Stroman.
Madam Chair, Senator Marty, I think as Mr. Stanley said, it's really just clarification of the authorities that are conveyed to us in the previous sentence. I think it's just basically some comfort language. There were concerns that perhaps the DNR might construe that as conveying additional authorities that were not currently with the board, and so this just clarifies that.
Senator Marty. Any further questions? Senator Ingebrigtsen, any comments on this?
No, Madam Chair, I don't. I do like the part of the report back to the legislature. This is going to be an ongoing issue, and I appreciate the commissioner and my committee and working on this most recent finding up in Beltrami County, which turned out to be quite extensive. So that's what triggered all this real late in the session. That's why we're bringing it forward now. We think it's that important. Obviously, the tradition of deer hunting is a family tradition going on in Minnesota for many years, so we want to make sure we protect that as best we can and get on top of it, and this is one way to do it.
Great, thank you very much. Well, this is a good compromise language, too. I think everybody should be pleased with this. So Senator Ingebrigtsen renews his motion on the A12 amendment. Members, audio on, video on, please. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Aye.
The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. Commissioner Stroman, to the rest of the bill, please. Thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the rest of the bill because we're, as at the Department of Natural Resources, very happy to support this bill. We do think, obviously, as has been noted before, there were some compromises made in this, but ultimately, I think it is a bill that serves Minnesotans well, particularly with respect to their natural resources and outdoor spaces. And I know earlier in the session, I was here before both Senator Ingebrigtsen's committee and your committee, Madam Chair, and just talked about what our outdoors and natural resources have meant to Minnesotans over this past year during the COVID-19 pandemic, and the need to invest in those resources to ensure that people can continue to enjoy those opportunities. And that's really what this bill does. As Senator Ingebrigtsen said, one of the key provisions is the funding of our state parks to ensure that we can continue to operate them at the levels that people have been enjoying. And although our original proposal was to do that through a fee increase, we were able to do that through general fund. And I know Minnesotans will appreciate the opportunity to continue with that same level of service. I know we were not able to make the investments in water recreation due to the not moving forward the watercraft registration fee. So you'll probably hear us come back and talk about that as Minnesotans are out on the waters too. But some of the other things I think that are really important investments in this bill are the investments in our state forest nursery to ensure that we can best utilize that existing asset that the state has to enhance the capacity to grow more trees and then get those trees planted on both public and private land. So we very much appreciate that. I think it's wonderful that within, again, the general fund, we've been able to address more proactively. We talked about wanting to prevent chronic wasting disease and not just respond. And so we've been able to do that. Similarly with aquatic invasive species, there's general fund in here, as Senator Ingebrigtsen noted, not only for the research, but also for prevention grants and to address some specific concerns at Upper and Lower Red Lake. So those are very important investments. And then lastly, I'll just note the investments in ensuring that the DNR's operational needs are met. And so this bill funds our legal costs, which are ever present, some public safety, our general fund operating adjustments, and our digital assets as well. And I think I just also want to say to Senator Ingebrigtsen, thank you to you and your staff and your committee, because I think between the CWD and frankly the public safety issues, there was a lot of stuff evolving late in the game in this bill related to the Department of Natural Resources, and folks have been very flexible and accommodating and understanding that these needs have changed over the course of the session. And so I think we've all worked together quite well to address them.
Thank you, Commissioner. And could you just make note of the urgency of this bill?
Yes, Madam Chair, and it's my understanding this bill is headed to the floor, and I'm very glad to hear that because, as folks may or may not be aware, when we get close to the government shutdown, one of the things that has to shut down under those scenarios are our state parks. And because we don't like to just close the doors on people without any notice on the 1st of July, we are at that point where we need to start notifying people who have reservations at our state parks that there is a potential shutdown and they may need to alter their plans. And so we are literally 24 to 48 hours probably away from starting to implement shutdown planning at the state parks. So we appreciate this, appreciate you moving this bill out of your committee tonight, and appreciate it headed to the floor, hopefully in both bodies and quick passage.
Thank you, Commissioner. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, one of the things that I have heard anecdotally through people who work with your agency is that there are people who've planned weddings, and particularly when we think about people who may have postponed weddings over the past year, if we end up canceling people's wedding plans this year, that is just really not okay. So I appreciate your speaking to this urgency, and I've been trying to carry that message myself around here, and we need to do this, and we need to do it fast.
Yes, thank you,
Thanks.
Senator Camp. Any further questions for Commissioner Stroman or Senator Ingebrigtsen or Commissioner Bishop? Senator Marty.
Madam Chair, not for Commissioner or anyone particular, maybe for fiscal analysts and Mr. Nauman or something, but when we were talking about CWD, the line 130 of the spreadsheet talks about a $2.25 million a year increase in deer farm inspections, and I'm wondering, fees we have for programs usually are meant to cover the costs of it, and I was curious if we have a range of how much the fees are covering now and so on, and I assume Mr. Mueller.
Thank you. Mr. Mueller, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Madam Chair and Senator Marty, the money in the bill is all new money on top of what is currently being spent to manage the deer farms. That appropriations that was sent to the Animal Health Board are not changed, and I don't think the language that is in the bill does not move any of the money or anything like that yet. And I think the report that was asked for in the amendment will probably address some of the staffing, the funding, and some of the things like that, that going forward, that may need to be adjusted in how they manage the deer herd between the two agencies. So right now, the money in the bill is all new money on top of what the Animal Health Board was currently, and they do collect some fees from the deer farmers already, and that goes back to the Animal Health Board's budget.
And
Senator
Madam
Marty.
Chair, Mr. Mueller, with, so the current inspection stuff, which is, I think I remember about 600,000 or something, that's Board of Animal Health. And the fees go to there. The fees, they don't
Right.
cover that amount now, though, do they?
Mr. Mueller.
Yeah, Madam Chair and Senator Marty, correct. It's essentially a subsidized program right now at the Board of Animal Health. How that plays out with the new money for the DNR and they're working jointly, I think, and how that works with the fees, it obviously will not sort of be a self-sustaining program going forward. I think that's acknowledged with the additional money that we put into the bill. But I think in long term and looking at the report, they'll be able to tell, what part of the operations the fees maybe should cover, if it's just the very inside the fence thing that they were talking about, or if it's more of the broader work that the DNR does. So I think it's one of those things we'll be looking at with the report and ongoing.
Senator Marty.
Madam Chair, given the severity of the problem and the cost of it, I mean, $4.5 million a biennium on top of what we're spending now. Usually with these kind of things, like a lot of our licensure programs, a lot of things like that are supposed to pay for the services that are required, and I think this is one that deserves that, so I hope the study in here does take a look at that as well.
Thank you, Senator Marty. Any further questions? Okay. Senator Ingebrigtsen, would you like to make the motion?
Madam Chair, I move the Senate File 20 as amended to be passed and referred to directly to the floor.
Okay. Members, audio on, video on, please. On Senator Ingebrigtsen motion, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
The motion prevails. Thank you very much, Senator Ingebrigtsen. Good bill. Members, I believe this is going to be on the floor tonight. So, and for the GOP, we are in caucus right now. So with that, just stay tuned to your email. Not sure what tomorrow's schedule is.
Thanks, guys.
I have nothing to give you yet. So thank you very much to both departments. Appreciate your work on this, and to everybody else that helped with this.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator
Members.
Ingebrigtsen. With that, Senate Finance Committee is adjourned.